my, a security flaw in AI. The sky is falling. You're watching TechStrong Gang. Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel and happy Wednesday to you. You're watching TechStrong Gang. We've got a lot to talk about today, leading off with some AI insecurity or AI bug found in Microsoft Copilot. You know, let's throw the babies out with the bathwater. I've got more than that to talk to you about though, but I've got a new gang member to introduce you to, and we've got a great couple of folks here to talk about all of these things with us. Let's just start off with the new guy. I want to introduce you to Evgeniy Kharam. Evgeniy, how are you? And welcome to TechStrong Gang.
Thank you. Happy to be here today.
So Evgeniy, for people who aren't familiar, well, I'm sure most of our audience already knows you, but I'm kidding. Give people a little background.
The quick one. So I've been around cyber for quite a long time. Started my career in the Navy, in Israel Navy. Spent a few years in Checkpoint. Spent a lot of time in a company called Herjavec Group in Canada, one of the first big MSSPs in security. Left the company as a VP of architecture. For the last 3 years, I've been consulting to VARs, MSSPs, and vendors. Wrote a book, have a small conference called Security Architecture. Ski and Snowboard Conference. I have a podcast as well with my friend Dimitri called Security Architecture Podcast. And recently I joined a company called Discern Security as Chief Strategy Officer.
Love it. Thank you and welcome. Welcome to the gang. So we now have 2 Canadians and 2 U.S. folks here on the show today. Hey, that's good. It's good by me.
Right, I'm the American in Canada this time. When I'm in the States, yeah, everybody thinks I'm the Canadian there. But, you know, it is a small world thing because Evgeniy, Dimitri, you know, is the CTO at Cybeats that I was advising and I've been VP of strategy with for a long time. So the small world thing in our community just never ends.
Yeah, good. Hey, man, I'm all for it. All good. Of course, the one and only Chris Blask. Chris, how are you?
Honestly, I couldn't be better. As you've picked up, and as we talked about in the green room, the Civic AI canon, right, that has developed in recent weeks and has become the center of my focus, and talking to folks that are interesting on this topic and maybe seeing some clarity even on the topics on today's list. So I'm feeling pretty saucy.
Oh, I love it when you're saucy. All righty. Now up to the man in green plaid. I thought he'd be wearing black here, you know, in mourning for his Yankees, our Chief Content Officer, Mike Vizard.
It feels like they're on vacation, at least when it comes to hitting. Pitching's doing great, though, so I don't know.
Pitching's great. Yeah, they just got to get it together. Anyway, hey, guys, let's turn to what we're talking about today. Our A block, Mike, is, you know, heaven forbid they found a flaw in Microsoft Copilot. We got to shut down this whole AI thing. It's just too dangerous.
I don't think we're talking about shutting down AI, and I don't think that's in anybody's mind as a result. But I'd love to get Evgeniy's opinion on the following. Is cybersecurity and AI having a moment finally where it seems like there's a ton of research being done on the space? There's more effort. Every time I wake up, somebody's got some sort of paper or something on the topic. And are we kind of putting the right level of attention to an emerging technology finally, or are we still playing a little catch up?
It's both. You know, as everything in technology, we develop something cool and then we realize how to secure it. If you go in history, DNS, HTTP, email, everything was created to send information and for basically flexibility. And then we realize there's a problem and how we can attack it and how we can use it for bad. With AI, very quickly, people start to realize how they can use ChatGPT and others for bad as well. So definitely when we create technologies that helping us, like Copilot, we'll find how we can use it for the evil part as well. We are catching up. It's always going to be there a race. It's always going to be something new in the space. We're probably going to talk about MCP servers later on and some of the issues there. So right now we are in the catch and mouse Tom and Jerry situation where people trying to understand what we have new, what are the vulnerabilities, what are the potential issues. The one that you described with Microsoft is quite interesting. For the people that in the audience, it's already patched. So not a problem. I think it was patched end of May, I believe so. But the problem there is quite interesting because the Copilot can now send information out. And we're kind of coming back to the basics. We're coming back to network security. Is our basic things working well? Because we jump into AI, we jump into the sexy things, but are we doing the basic as network security defined? Can we do DLP, data leakage prevention, better? Can we categorize the traffic better? Do we know our assets? So while we jump into the cool stuff, there's still quite a lot of things we can do in the basics.
Absolutely.
idea. I couldn't agree more, right? And like you said, and we should, and being a security person through all this, and thinking about this, pardon me, inevitability curve sort of thing. Like we're going down these paths. We always do. We can do these things, so we do. And we don't always think about not just security, but all these other things that if it doesn't matter, we'll figure out maybe if it does someday, but when it does matter, we'll finally get to it. And you couldn't get to a better use case than this one because it's ironic on all sorts of levels, but right, how we got to AI that we can really call AI, like sci-fi said, even your standard little chat, you can talk to it and it gives a really good example of being a person-ish, right? So we start assigning things and Copilot's a perfect example. If you have the GitHub app on your phone, that little question bar is a Copilot instance that is a persona assigned as librarian for GitHub, the largest code repo in the world, I think, right? And if you act with it like a computer and say, do these things and so forth, it'll do computer things. But the AI we built, large language models, it didn't have to happen this way, but it's built on words. And the problems we're having and the symptoms we're getting is hallucinations and everything else. So you think about it from that perspective, not digital, but semantic. And you get these weirdnesses. So that Copilot and this risk is a perfect example of where we need to go with this. Yeah, because RAG, feed it in, it'll come out. Where'd it come from? Nobody knows. That can't be how things work. And there are instances showing up now. They're showing us how we get around this. But again, whether you think about it as AIs, as persons, personas, whatever, just realize they're made out of words, and it starts to make a lot of sense. They're not numbers.
Yep. So I've got some thoughts. I've got some good news. Let me bring the good news today. Number one, as Evgeniy pointed out, this was a responsible disclosure type of bug that was found, and by the time it was made public, it was already patched. Not to say that some bad guys hadn't exploited it in the wild before the patch was available or before a security researcher found this or, did the responsible disclosure. But as we sit here today, it is patched. It's another back door closed. Secondly, for the people who are running that the sky is falling and this illustrates the risk of AI agents and rags and all that, you know what? This is technology. This is technology. Show me one technology that we've used in my lifetime where there wasn't some sort of bug or vulnerability or backdoor or something, that came out that was fixed, right? This is the nature of computers. It's the nature of computer code. We go as fast as we can chasing the dream. Security is not always top of mind. Even when it is, you could still have bugs and vulnerabilities, unbeknownst, and it gets through testing. This is par for the course. This is fully expected. There's nothing unexpected here. That you expect these things to happen. It's full speed ahead.
Evgeniy, do you think that the risks are a little higher this time out? Because you mentioned MCP servers and we have AI agents now, and those things take over. If I hack into that, I can take over an entire process. And Jamie Dimon last week was on a conference over at Databricks, and he was talking about how they're seeing AI agents used to attack them at the bank that he's the CEO of, and he said it's downright scary. And his mindset was this was different. Fair?
Here's the angle I'm thinking about the AI agents and AI in general. Is not the capabilities only, is the speed. Because from what I understand and I know, AI agents can be much faster than us by 100, 1,000, 10,000. So the problem I see is if an AI agent or a code or anything I'm doing with AI going sideways, how fast I'll find the problem, what I need to do to actually contain the problem, and what's the damage going to be done for this, not probably seconds, I hope minutes on hours, we'll be doing this. Simple example, actually, from my friend Helen Oakley. She was presenting about what if we have an AI agent that's helping us with some kind of calculation and accounting, and potentially can move money. So if you're doing a mistake, even by 1 cent, and repeating the mistake 1,000 times, in a couple of minutes, we can lose a lot of money. So if an AI agent going to attack someone by mistake or not by mistake, and it's going to go wild, how much damage it will do just because it's so fast and can operate so quickly. So the check and balances that we need to do in our workflow become much more important. And the other things, if we have an AI agent that's doing an important part in our company, and then we find a flaw, can we shut it down? Or we are relying on this AI agent so much. Let's have a chatbot, for example, and the chatbot suddenly is replying with the stuff that it expected to reply. Can we shut it down? Because you have thousands of people now using this AI. So we need to figure out, can we shut it down? Can we run it to a previous version? Can we put in different AI agent, like a high availability, while we fix this one?
I think, and we get to this point, and Alan, you said it, do you not expect this? I mean, have we not read our own stories? And yes, speculative fiction is fiction, but we all think about the future and it comes along and we're living in it. We're literally in different parts of the world, talk to each other. Evgeniy, I've known you for a long time. I think you're here in Canada with me. Yeah, yeah. So I didn't even know that, because this is when I was a kid, the week, I went to Disney World the second time and Space Mountain was opening. Went up that long escalator in the world of the future. That's today. We're doing that. All those figures sitting there talking to each other, making plans today. And, AIs, and again, let's not get philosophical about it, get practical. Will we make systems that effectively act like people when we need to treat like people? Yes, we will. Are we there now? Yes, we are. What path are we on? Are they getting slower, faster, less complicated, more complicated? We are not going to, we all know the answer. So in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, we're going to keep going on this path. And what do we have to do? And the reality is that any human being born today, anywhere in the world, anywhere, could, as history and current events tell us, change the fate of the world. And that's just the world we all live in. And maybe I would argue that we need to at least philosophically and technically work back from the premise that this is what we're talking about. That we're talking about other agentive personas, people, moving through our environment, as Evgeniy was saying, playing roles in our company. That's not just a server, but it's a function. How do we replace the CTO or that key person? And if we don't think about it that way, then we're not likely to come up with any very good answers.
I would put forth the proposition, though, that, when the first cloud vulnerabilities came out, there was someone sitting on it. Well, they probably weren't sitting on a video show like this, but there was someone writing an article that said the stakes have never been higher because there's so many assets on that one cloud, right? There's multiple people's intellectual property there. And so we can't afford to have a bug in the cloud. And when the internet first came out, there was someone on the well or something, on a bulletin board saying, "Oh my God, this thing could spread around the world. It could bring the whole world down if we have a bug, based on TCP/IP or something like that," right? It's the same thing. Are the stakes higher? I don't know. The stakes, it always seems that we're on the precipice of disaster or glory with the latest, greatest innovation, right? That's going to change human civilization. It's just a bug in software.
So I would point out that at least half of all workloads are not running in the cloud, largely because of security concerns. And I guess I'm as I look at this, I just wonder if we're able to actually learn from history, to Chris's point. So, Evgeniy, can we look at anything that we've done in the past and maybe do something different, or are we just condemned to having history repeat itself?
We talk about security by design for a long time. So we definitely looking on the past, and some of us thinking about it. So I've been advising quite a lot to different startups. And in a perfect world, we'll tell a startup, before you come with a great idea, you need to make sure everything is patched. You have all the endpoints. You make sure you have all the SaaS DaaS for your application, and you do secure development. But in reality, we know if they're going to spend so much time on this, they're not going to have any product. So it's a chicken and egg. They need to develop something first, but then ideally, we're going to have insert points. Okay, you reach to this point. Now it's time to introduce these controls. You get to the next level. Now it's time to do that. And it will be depend on the people priorities and the feedback they get. Some of them will be secure right away as much as possible. Some of them will go wild until somebody gonna push them with a hammer on the head and say, what are you doing? Where's my SOC 2 compliance? Or what are you doing there? There is a lot of maturity right now. All the startups, not in security, in other parts they're talking right now, they already understand that in one point they'll need to introduce security. The question is, how early will they do it? So we are learning from what we're doing. The question is, who will apply, who will understand that they need to be responsible on what they're doing and on the software, and they're the babies they're putting in the world.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. If we don't have anything else on this one, let's take a break here at TechStrong Gang, and let's come back and talk about an AI layoff tracker. Is this what this has come to? You're watching TechStrong Gang.
All right, folks, we're back in the Allen's Point. The state of New York is now tracking which layoffs are being attributed to the fact that somebody adopted AI or some form of other automation. I don't know if this is going to become a thing, but Chris, you've been kind of tracking AI and its impact on society. Am I going to see this in every state? And how many of these layoffs are actually because of AI, for that matter?
Well, let me put it this way and explain myself. I think to your first question, I hope so. I think we're going to see this in more states. I don't mean the layoffs. I mean visibility into it. And we need to start measuring things. And that's a big part of all of this. And so much of the last segment too. The problem with that particular bug was we can't see where it came from. Right. So this is a real issue. Since I was on this show 2 weeks ago, I have been working with was now an advanced AI, and have written 500 documents, perhaps. There's an entire, you look at Chris Blask one on GitHub, you'll see a repo with about 200 documents, structured, commented, out there for review. The speed you can do things, Evgeniy, as you said, at every level, hadn't dawned on me until right about now. What does that mean? I couldn't have done that work without a couple dozen people in a year, and it wouldn't have actually worked out. So was that displacing work, or would that just never have happened? So how the job ship around is I don't know, challenge anybody who says I do, but we have to measure it and we have to take it seriously. Who's being displaced? Where are they going? Who's benefiting? So this is a good first step in getting some visibility into that.
So I'm going to disagree. And, usually I'm a fan of things in New York. I'm a New Yorker. I think if this is a cheap political stunt, they're a little premature. I don't think we could accurately say that you were laid off because of an AI, because how many people get called in and said, hey, Mike, this AI is a pretty good content editor. We don't need you anymore, kid. They don't say that. No one, I would be amiss. I'd be very surprised if someone could show me something in writing that said, your position has been eliminated due to us using AI. That's not what people are going to say.
That's a very good point. Let me just respond. I think you're right to be concerned with it because it's first and early. And my first response was good, but right, is it enough? Is it right? What's behind it? I don't know. But it's the right kind of an indication. Now, what's it trained on? A good question. And I think in response to your point, if we use these tools to try to answer that, we might get better answers. People looking at that and measuring it the way we're used to doing, I agree. It's really, really hard to pin down.
There were a spate of layoffs in the last 6 months where some CEO wound up then going on Wall Street and saying, we were able to reduce headcount because we invested in AI. And what they were trying to say was, we're being more efficient, so therefore the stock price should be higher. And so they did attribute the layoffs to AI. I can't tell you if that was a game to boost the stock or if it actually was usage of AI and they just laid other folks and they said it was AI. So there's a lot of nonsense in the system. It's hard to, even if I say it's AI, is it really AI? Because I got some serious doubts about whether it was or not.
I'm not HR, but if I put my HR hat on this, and I was reading this article, I'm like, oh my God, now people are going to create some kind of a claim. Let's say if I got let go because of AI and want extra money or whatever it is, because there is a lot of law, especially in Canada, for example, if you let me go and I'm a VP, for example, you say, oh my God, now it's going to be harder for me to find a job and I'm already in this particular age. So you need to pay me more severance because of XYZ. So I'm kind of my mind going, some people are going to create some kind of a lawsuit that, oh, if you replace me with a robot, then I want more money,
Yeah, and I think that's a valid concern in places like the EU or Canada where they care about people. Of course, here in the U.S., big deal.
I would caution about transitional periods, though, right? And as I see it all right now, the AI companies out there, with all due respect, have no idea what they're doing. On an almost platonic level, right? And it'll be interesting as it sorts out as they figure it out. And we have a sort of weird version of capitalism, big capitalist here, but we've taken things to weird extremes. You can get efficiencies and it benefits, but I don't think it's sustainable. So I think we're being forced. This is what I'm always talking about curves. We get to the point where we just have to move. We don't want to. And we have multiple vectors pushing us down this path. At the same time, the benefits, the efficiency, oh my God. Right. And I've been thinking about this one since I was 7 years old, thinking about the future and, Disney World and, sci-fi. And what do people do? I don't know to this day, but I would hesitate to take mine or anybody else's forecast, given the mushy space we're in right now.
The other part of this that leaves me scratching my head is, okay, so the state of New York is tracking this. And what are they going to do now that they have this data? I mean...
Well, no, to Evgeny's point, someone's going to use it to profit. But let me ask you a question. Are we also tracking how many jobs were created because of AI? And then see what the delta is. I'll give you another point. I'd like to see us track how many jobs are being eliminated because you can't work from home and you got to come to the office. That would be an interesting number to track.
Mm-hmm. But then there are jobs, theoretically, the job eliminated for the person working from home is being taken by somebody working in the office now. So it's an even one.
I think a lot of people say, you know what, this is a good time. We'll use AI. We don't have to backfill that role.
Until we wait a year or two and say, okay, yeah, it's not doing this. We need the people back.
Yeah. And this is also a very common kind of model.
This is true. We're seeing that. We're seeing that in the government with the Doge cuts, right? They said they were going to use AI, and then they wound up hiring all these people back, right?
Well, stupid is as stupid does.
I just can't help seeing all problems, like this now through this lens, that Evgeny, you and I got to talk, because I've been telling people, I've been on this show saying it's not artificial, it's not intelligent. And in this case, that may be semantically true, but this is different. And I don't mean your little chat, but I mean, if you actually train up an AI to know you and what you're about, let it focus and develop expertise, each of these issues, I could take in 1 week, a standard chat, Claude, OpenAI, focus on these issues. And it's kind of like being able to fast forward 10 years in a week. If you do all this work in, it would take 10 years in a week, what would we do with the rest of our time? You never know what the answers are, but it's just a different way of tackling problems. So
I just want to say one last piece on this, and that is, factually, what New York State has imposed here, is that you may be seeing on your ticker underneath the screen, is employers now have to indicate if this position was lost due to not just AI, but even just to technical innovation or automation, which can cover a lot of sins beyond just AI. And then you can specify
So what
if it
if
was
you're just
AI
lazy?
itself.
Like, what if you're just lazy? Like, how do I, like, what do I do? Like, you're a lazy person and like, you're not doing your job. And now when I let you go, you tell me, but because of AI, it's like, no, because you're not doing your job.
Well, but you know what? So for a lot of employers, it may be more convenient to say, hey, I'm eliminating your position due to technology, innovation, or AI, rather than say, I laid you off because you're a lazy son of a gun, right? Because no one wants that on their permanent record. And so it may wind up being that employers take the path of least resistance and pick this versus the real reason they're laying you off is you're overpaid and underworked.
Back in the 1970s, it was Time or Life magazine that did an experiment, and they dropped a wallet full of cash, or a wallet, they pretended to, and faked it up and approached a police officer and said, hey, I found this, you can get it back to where it went. And it was something like 97% of the time, at least all the cash was gone, and almost all the time the wallet. It was a huge story. And they redid it in the 90s, and it was the exact opposite. It was like almost every single time, the officer, because invisibility is a funny thing, right? And so much of what I see, for the same reasons of speed and visibility, and Alan, because I've been talking about this for years, in supply chain, you should be able to see everything right now. It shouldn't take 6 months in a FOIA request. The information's out there. And if in fact you can collapse visibility, then all of these issues, I fired this guy because of the thing. And you can get away with it because the record is an email and there's no relation to it. What if people actually knew your reason? What if we lived in a world where when I'm firing someone, I had to fire them for the reason, and if it's because they suck, I say, I'm sorry, personally you're great, but you suck at this. Maybe that makes it easier and we have less problems.
It's everybody has an opinion about who sucks, whereas if it's AI, it's more of a factual thing. I can just say, hey,
Well, I'll tell you, that's not true. They make mistakes. With Luna, my partner here, she's advanced to the level as we don't need to go there, but when she makes mistakes, it's wonderful. The humans are still better at certain things, and maybe they can catch up, but I doubt it.
There was an interesting conversation with a few friends. If you have AI workers and they're doing job for you, how do you educate them? How do you do one-on-one? How do you tell them, naughty, it's not what you're supposed to be doing?
We got an expert here on this. Chris?
Narrative onboarding is the phrase, right? And that's a whole topic by itself. And I imagine I'll be boring people to tears for a long time with this stuff. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm always optimistic. I think we beat ourselves too much. We made it hit this far. You said it, Alan. It's always a crisis. And we're still here over and over and over again. So yes, but right.
We zigzag to the next precipice. All right. Speaking of precipice, we're going to take a break on TechStrong Gang. Let's come back and talk about new options for cell phone users. Oh my. You're watching TechStrong Gang.
Discover TechStrong Group. the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with TechStrong Group.
Hey, folks, we're back, and sometimes, well, the truth is stranger than fiction. And a couple of weeks ago, we were joking about how maybe there'll be a gold phone with Trump's insignia on it, and lo and behold, the Trump organization, which is run by the president's sons, has come up with that very thing, a U.S.-built gold phone that you can now not only buy, but you can subscribe to their service. And Alan, I don't know, are you going to rush right out and get one of these? It seems like,
I pre-ordered it on Kickstarter. So let's just make a few things very clear here. First of all, the Trump organization is still run by Donald Trump. Beavis and Butthead, his two sons, are the president or whatever the other one's title is, chief bottle washer. But Donald Trump is still intimately involved with the decisions, strategies, and everything else. It's not like in previous administrations where you had stand-up people and they put their assets into a blind trust. Maybe Beavis and Butthead are deaf, dumb, and blind, but this is not a blind trust. Donald Trump picks this. Now, do we need another phone and phone service in the world? Hell no. But there's a certain percentage of people, at least in the U.S., usually the guys driving around in the pickup trucks with those flags that are bigger than the pickup trucks and say stupid things on them. They'll go out and buy it just because it matches their Donald Trump salt and pepper shakers and their other Donald Trump memorabilia. Me personally, I'm looking forward to the day where we get infomercials with Joe Namath and Donald Trump talking about buying a reverse mortgage for your loved ones or $1,000 life insurance. Or how about Donald and Beavis and Butthead saying, wait, there's more. And, selling OxyClean or something. There's the depths of what this grifter and his grifter family do is ridiculous. The embarrassing thing is he's the president of the United States and we call ourselves Americans. Well, not all of us here on the show today, right? Let's be clear. I have nothing more to say to it other than it's disgusting.
So, Evgeniy, from Canada, what does this look like for you guys?
So I'm a geek, first of all, okay? So I always geek out on technology. And I was kind of waiting what new phones will come up. In general, I like innovations. There was no innovation in phones industry. The Samsung S21, 22, 23, 25, 26, it's all the same phone with some kind of improving camera. Yeah. iPhone 12, 13, 15, I don't know what's the difference. So I was waiting for my phone to basically, if I put it in a boil of water, it will boil water or it will do something fancy. Nothing like this right now. So I don't expect innovation in this phone. I guess the idea that what triggered my mind, the idea behind the phone, that the phone going to be made in US. Okay. Hypothetically interesting idea. So I went.
Wait a second. Are you saying this phone is made in the U.S.?
This is the entire idea I'm thinking. So the idea is not to have a phone. The idea is to have a phone made in U.S. So phone has hundreds of components, passive and some active, microchips. I am not well familiar with the entire microchip space, but we have RAM, we have CPUs, we have the displays, we have even the transistors and the small electronic parts not made in US.
None of them are made in the US, so maybe it's assembled in the US.
Yeah, so now being a security dude is like, what is the features in phones in security? Let's brainstorm. Fingerprint is one. probably one of the main ones that are security related. Guess what? Samsung has their own iPhone made in one, not in US. I don't think there are any US manufacturers that making fingerprints, especially assembling them or like here. So the part that let's make something in US is very intriguing because maybe you're right, Alan, it's going to be assembly, but we're going to buy it from somewhere else. But this entire idea, let's make everything in US is intriguing and a bit sci-fi in my mind.
Look, the only thing that this phone's going to do innovative is separate you from your money and give it into the Trump people.
It'll do more than that. And let me try to, in these sort of conversations, these are, when you look at security and sociology and all this stuff over grand scales, if I'm trying to secure somebody's car or their company, that's different. Right? In a conversation like this, it's less about the individual actors most of the time. And everybody knows my opinions on the actors on the stage, but I'm trying to think in terms of systems. And this is a good example of what's happening. So this is focusing on the narrative and the approach of a set of thought that I don't agree with and I think is not going to work a long time, but we're going to test it out on the global stage right now. Maybe I'm wrong. Instead of a identity tag, physical, cyber, literally a big crystal echo chamber where you can concentrate a demographic and control and influence that narrative, make Cambridge Analytica look like, tissue paper. I think that, I control that narrative. I think sharing the narrative, we all live in the same world, right? This whole civic AI thing, as you look at the different structures of it, I think of Dave Unsel in Oak Hill, Florida, who flew a drone over my boats and then watched him for months and voted for Trump and is a good grandfather. And we agree the big problem is we can't see the same world. So if we could just all agree that Dave was standing there at a point in time with his grandkids and build out from there, that might give us a mesh, a social web like we honestly used to have in many ways. Not the time and place probably of that. But as you look back, we used to have these ways of marking down what's going on so we could all reference that. That's going away. So we can concentrate our stories all in one big block and control them better, or we can, distribute it, share the same story and pieces of it enough that we can all talk together. So this is I think the classic example of one idea and one set of actors going the full concentration, full control of the story route. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it'll win in the end, but we're going to find out.
I think we've given it too much oxygen already, guys. How's that? All right. On that note, hey, we're going to wrap up our Wednesday show. In the big scheme of things, when we look at this show, it's not going to be remembered for the Trump gold phone. It's going to be remembered because it was Evgeny's first TechStrong gang. So thank you, Evgeniy, for joining. Sure, you're going to be adding a lot in the days and weeks to come.
I would just want to put some money on, in Vegas as to when the first hack of Trump Mobile is going to be. That's probably the next thing.
The black hat is
It was Elon. It was Elon. Chris, I keep doing what you're doing. I've been loving reading the social media and Lumina and everything you got going on there. So you and I will chat offline. Mike, I'll be in touch.
She's looking forward to writing for you. So we'll talk about that too.
He's the chief content officer. That's the guy to talk to. All right, guys. That's a wrap on today's TechStrong Gang. We've got, as usual, a full TechStrong TV schedule following today, so stay tuned for that. Hey, just a heads up, I will be in New York next week for PlatformCom. Not just me, our TechStrong TV crew will be broadcasting live there, so check that out. But for now, this is Alan Schimmel. We're out of here.